What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. I'm your host, Katie Mox, and today we're previewing the best division in football. All right, maybe not, but it's my favorite, the NFC West. That's what we're talking about today. So let's welcome in our guest, CBS Sports football analyst and the czar of the playbook, and really just a football encyclopedia, my friend Emory Hunt. Emory, thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Katie. Always a pleasure to come in and talk ball with you, as always.
It is. And I'm excited to talk NFC West with you because I feel like we've got differing opinions on some things. But, we haven't done this in a while, but let's bring back the Mox thought for the day. And you already know I'm wearing my Hell Purdy shirt right now. So let's talk about Brock Purdy. He has been medically cleared ahead of schedule without restrictions and has been named the designated starter for the Niners. No medical restrictions doesn't exactly mean that Shanahan and co. are not going to limit his pitch count. However, Purdy will not be throwing every day this week. I think he's going to be actually back in action today. He wasn't yesterday. I'm really excited because when Purdy is playing, this team wins 8 straight games in a row, 2 playoff games after being thrust into action last season. You know, he certainly, to me, Emory, earned this #1 spot. Yes, there is still Sam Darnold and Trey Lance lurking around. They are going to get the reps with the ones when Purdy is not throwing. But I'm interested to hear what you think about this situation, especially as he has come back earlier than expected with that elbow injury.
You know, there's a couple of things, Katie. One, you hope he didn't rush back because he knows he has to continue to compete to hold that spot. And that's always a crazy thing when you think about injuries, and especially when you think about the elbow for a quarterback. So hopefully he's fully medically cleared and not trying to rush back. But also you factor in, okay, we've seen quarterbacks like Brock Purdy before. The reason why they went out and traded all those assets to go up and get a Trey Lance because he provides that athleticism component. So it's still going to be a competition. Yes, he should start first because of how he finished. And if he's healthy and can elevate his game past what we saw last year, then that's good for San Francisco. But it also signs that it may be the end for a Lance or a Darnold if they can't beat out Brock Purdy, especially Trey Lance, considering the draft capital.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think you have to give it to Purdy considering he won 8 games and 2 in the playoffs, that you just don't all of a sudden bench a guy like that because Lance hasn't proven himself yet. At first, I was thinking, okay, they might try to offload Lance at some point before the season starts. But then I think about that NFC Championship game. I really would like to have 3 quarterbacks. I really want 3 there just in case. But it is also interesting to look at modern medicine, right? Because 10 years ago, that particular injury would have required a Tommy John surgery, which then he would have been out for an entire year. So it's interesting to see that they've got different ways of dealing with that ailment. And they've been working with him as far as the team every step of the way, and he's been hitting all of the markers. So I'm hopeful that he will be ready for week 1. It seems to be that it's trending in that direction. But then, of course, we have the Steelers, and I talked about last week. I don't know if I want Purdy up against TJ Watt week 1. I don't know if that's a guy that I want coming at him. But we're going to take a quick break here, and when we get back, we're doing Capper's Corner with my guy, Emory Hunt. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets. Time now for Capper's Corner as we welcome back in our guest, Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, the best dressed guy in sports. I appreciate that you're a little casual, though, with me today because I feel like when we're on Sportsline together, we're turning it up. The guy always has a pocket square. He's always dressed to impress to the nines, and I appreciate that about you. When we look at this NFC West, Emory, the 49ers are the favorite, -175, pretty juicy. Then you've got the Seahawks, who a lot of people think are sneaky, and I know that you do too, +210. The Rams at +850. Then the Cardinals, who have absolutely no shot at winning this division, at +2700. Emory, when you look at the schedules, every team in the NFC West will face every team in the AFC North, which has gotten a lot stronger, and also the NFC East, which we know right now is probably the strongest division in football. AFC North had 2 playoff teams last year. Again, they got stronger. All 4 teams won at least 7 games. In the NFC East, they had 3 playoffs teams last year, and each team was above 500, and they had the 4th best win percentage in any division in NFL history, which again is wild because we're talking about a division we used to call the NFC least, and now they're definitely the NFC beast. Let's start with the favorites and the Niners. Win total 10.5. It was 11.5. They were tied with the Chiefs and the Bengals at the top of the win totals. This was since been bet down to 10.5. That over juice to -160, under +140. Plus 850 to win the Super Bowl. They're at the top of the heap there. Plus 350 to win the conference behind the Eagles. What do you think about the 49ers this year, especially now that we know that Brock Purdy is likely going to be the quarterback?
Well, here's some truth, right, Katie? You ready for this? Because when you think about Brock Purdy, you think about how they won those games under Brock Purdy. I hate counting stats that don't count. But, man, how many dropped interceptions we saw from Brock Purdy? Now when you factor in he's coming off an elbow injury, there's not going to be as much gas on the ball from an arm that wasn't as strong anyway. So you worry about the passing game. But they have so many weapons on offense. It doesn't take a deep ball to be effective. The defense is still the defense. The front seven, at least. I worry about the secondary outside of Hufanga. I think he's a phenomenal player. But the corners is where I worry about San Francisco. So, for me, I'm going to go under on San Francisco, and I'm a big fan of Seattle.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, one, I feel like the cornerback situation has always been the Achilles heel of the 49ers defense. They're so strong up front, but the corner situation has been a problem and remains this year probably the biggest question mark because they have – in terms of pass catchers, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got George Kittle, there's Deebo Samuel, there's Ayuk, there's so much for them there that yes. And the thing with the Niners, everyone always says, it doesn't matter who's behind quarterback. You or me could be a quarterback and the Niners will be successful. Now, I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think of all the quarterbacks that we've seen, including my beloved Jimmy Garoppolo, this offense runs the best under Brock Purdy. But it is interesting that you said about the dropped interceptions because that is a thing. And you have to think that there's going to be, I don't want to say regression, right? Because he was a rookie and only played, 8 games in the season, came in mid-season. But yeah, he wasn't able to work out all off season. So his arm is not going to be stronger, which you would have hoped you would have seen if Purdy didn't get injured in the NFC Championship game. So I hear you on that one. But I'm still going to take the over on this. And I know it seems like a homer pick, but I looked at their schedule and I really can see potentially a 12-win season from them. They're traveling the most of any team this year, which is a little bit concerning. They did go 11-6 against the spread last year, which I love. It was the 5th best in the NFL. They were 6-0 straight up and against the spread in the NFC West. And that's what I'm kind of leaning on here when I think of them going over their win total. I think that they can win every game in this division. I know that you're high on Seattle, and we are going to talk about Seattle, but there's got to be a little bit of regression for Geno Smith. And we saw that in the second half of the season, even last year. Started out really strong. Then he started throwing some. You want to talk about interceptions? Who was throwing a lot of interceptions towards the last half of the season? It was Mr. Geno Smith. I love the way they're looking at me right now.
Because I want to jump in right quick, Miss Katie, and say, so we're expecting Geno Smith to regress. Yes. But you're expecting Brock Purdy to turn into Joe Montana coming off of an elbow injury in which his arm was already weak. Now it's
I didn't say that. I didn't expect
far too many Joe Montana t-shirts to know that this is coming from, hope and not logic.
Well, look, I don't expect Brock Purdy to turn into Joe Montana necessarily. I would hope for that. I mean, what a great season that would be if that happened. But I did say he wasn't able to work out his arm as much, so maybe he is going to be a little bit weaker. But the thing with the 49ers is Christian McCaffrey. Okay, they went 10-0 straight up, 8-2 against the spread in 10 regular season games that Christian McCaffrey was the starter. This guy is a game changer for the offense. He's a Swiss Army knife. I've talked about this all the time. He's a top running back. He's probably one of the best pass catching backs in the league. He can throw a touchdown. He could be a quarterback as well. He could block. He could do everything. With Christian McCaffrey at their disposal, I do feel like Brock Purdy, maybe if he's not as strong, I still see 10 wins here. But here's the thing. I look at them starting out, and let me see. I had their thing up here at Niners schedule. I mean, for the first game scares me because it's the Steelers, and the Steelers have not lost opening weekend. I found out this week, like 3 years in a row. It's Mike Tomlin. It's at home. I do think that Kenny Pickett is better. That defense, TJ Watt, scares me. So And the Niners tend to start a little bit slower, but I think it's very important to them this year more than ever to have that number 1 seed. So they cannot start slow like they have been. But okay, maybe the 49ers lose game one. What do you think of week 1? Do you think the Niners beat the Steelers?
It's funny because I'm laughing. You guys are built the same way. San Francisco can run the ball, play good defense. Pittsburgh can run the ball, play good defense. You guys have Brock Purdy. They have Allegheny County Brock Purdy and Kenny Pickett. They're the same guy, right? Yeah, so for me, it's like, who can stop the run? And we know week 1 of the NFL is essentially week 4 of the preseason. So expect sloppy play. You guys lost in week 1 last year to the Bears. And the Bears ended up winning 2 games after that. Right? Exactly. So you never know what can happen week 1. I would say play all unders in week 1 because it's going to be sloppy football week 1. But that's a tough game. But I do love the fact that I'm smiling ear to ear because you've made the point that I've been trying to make all summer and spring about the running back position. You keep talking about Christian McCaffrey, outstanding points. And it seems like anybody can play quarterback, right? Just like how they say anybody can play running back, it seems like anybody can play quarterback. But I digress. But that game in week 1 is going to be tough.
Well, let me ask you about this because you are a huge advocate for running backs. You're obviously a running back with the Ragin' Cajuns. Talk to me about the devaluation of backs right now. And, we got Dalvin Cook that still hasn't landed somewhere. I come from the 49ers where the run game is so important to this offense. So I love running backs. Frank Gore is my favorite player of all time. The disrespect that running backs are going through, to me, I find offensive. To you, I know it's a whole different level. Talk to us about what you think about the running back position and kind of the shade and the devaluation that the position has gone through recently.
First of all, shout out to Elijah Mitchell, fellow Ragin' Cajun, who is also a part of that 49ers backfield. I'm always going to love San Francisco run game. But notice how we talk about all the different quarterbacks. You forgot to mention C.J. Beathard, Nick Mullins, all these guys we've seen through Shanahan's system. And what he goes and makes a move for a first-round pick in Christian McCaffrey. And we'll get the best back. I need elite talent. And folks think you could take backs any round. Sure, you can take any player any round. You only got 7 of them. But the most important thing is you take guys that can help you win early. You take elite players of any position. McCaffrey is an elite guy. Not every back is Christian McCaffrey. So there's a difference between him and Elijah Mitchell. So for me, when people talk about the running back position is devalued, it's not devalued, it's just more evolved. Back when I played, you had to carry the ball 20 to 25 times a game. We don't even talk about that or in that same lingo nowadays because these kids coming out of high school, middle school, don't even carry the ball that much. Everyone is touching the football. So these guys are not even built to hold the ball 25 times a game in a straight run game. So you got to be versatile. We see the advent of 7-on-7. So that's why you see more guys being able to catch the ball out of the backfield, be more like receivers because they've been doing that. Flag football at the elementary to middle school level, 7-on-7 at the high school level. So naturally they're evolving into better pass catchers, not be able to tote the ball 25 times a game. So it's a different position now, but it's still worth its weight in salt in football.
So you're saying, I mean, I guess we've seen this with people like Christian McCaffrey or even people like, Deebo Samuel, who could also be a running back, even though he's a wide receiver. The position has evolved to be a little bit more positionless. So you have to be a little bit more of that switch. That the traditional just running the ball isn't as attractive to teams anymore.
Absolutely not. Think about Kyle Juszczyk, someone we've seen evolve from a straight flex tight end at Harvard to now he's a fullback. So that's we've seen that position kind of evolve as well.
Very, very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see where Dalvin Cook ends up and what his salary will be. I know we're supposed to be talking about the NFC West, but curious because I know you were at Giants camp just yesterday. Saquon Barkley was holding out and then he came for basically just another $1 million. A lot of people are thinking that Saquon didn't exactly get a good deal and the Giants got a really good deal. Curious what you think of that.
It's tough because as more details came up about the contract, I just got more and more. I felt bad for him. I was like, man, they paid my guy in hamburgers. Like everything that came out, you like, man, he didn't get what he wanted money wise. He didn't get the fact that he could take away the franchise tag the following year. Then Andrew Thomas signs for $2 billion, and it's like, man, they just told Saquon shut up and come camp. But again, what works for them. If that was the number he was comfortable with or a situation he was comfortable with, there's probably some things going outside of what we know as a contract that is involved that got him to camp. And, there was no sulking. There was no pouting yesterday. He was all in, making plays. So if he's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, and $11 million isn't exactly chump change, but I did think that he was going to hold out for a little bit more. But again, I mean, he cares about the team. I'm pretty high on the Giants this year, so we'll have to see how that works out. All right, moving on to your favorite team in the division, the Seattle Seahawks. Their win total is set to 9. It was at 8.5, and this one actually got bet up. That over plus money 110, under juice to minus 130, Super Bowl odds plus 4,000, conference plus 1,600, and division they're the second shortest odds at plus 210. And look, a lot of people see the value in Seattle, and I think that you do too. And I'm not exactly mad at taking it for a value play. I'm just telling you they're not actually going to win the division. But when we look at these 9 wins, what do you think?
Well, you got 4 automatically with the Rams and Cardinals, right?
Hell
so you got a good jump start to the season. But when you look at Seattle, 2 receivers, excellent, DK Metcalf and also Tyler Lockett, right?
Yes.
They add arguably the number 1 receiver in the draft class in Jackson Smith-Njigba. So now you got 3 options, and you just spin that forward to where San Francisco is vulnerable in the secondary. What Geno Smith does well, air it out, work, touchdown, to check down. Think about the first pass of the game in that playoff game. He went deep down the field to DK Metcalf, right? So you got
and then nothing else. And then nothing else. But
you know why? Because the offensive line, 2 rookies starting at tackle, Abraham Lucas and also Charles Cross. They're now sophomores. Technically, or second year, they're all rookie seasons last year, so they're going to be better. Their interior offensive line got better. They got better in the backfield by adding Jack Charbonnet to already a talented Kenneth Walker. 2 good tight ends, Noah Fant, Will Dissly. They have loaded offense, and defensively, that's why they couldn't really stop San Francisco. They couldn't get off the field. They got better in the secondary. I think they got the best secondary in the division. They got better, healthier at the second level. Jordan Brooks back healthy. Bobby Wagner back healthy. Devin Bush comes over from the Pittsburgh Steelers, or Deion Bush comes over from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're good at linebacker, and they got better up front, being able to rush the passer. So to me, they have more of a complete team than San Francisco does, especially at quarterback, comeback player of the year in Geno Smith, who works touchdown to check down the passing game. And to me, when you factor in all of those things, Seattle looks really good, and I think they can go over that win total. Remember, it was 8.5 the last time we talked, and now it's 9.5, which means more people have gotten smarter and listened to me. And we saw that San Francisco number come down.
You're moving the lines. You're changing.
Listen, that's why they check in, right? They want to get the facts. My new name is Just the Facts. Don't call me Emory Hunt no more. Just the Facts. So I like Seattle going over that number.
You know, here's the thing. I like Seattle. I kind of think they push. I like them at 9. If I had to take one, I will lean over on this one. I'll be there with you. I do agree. They've got 4 easy wins in the division. Now, it is possible that they split wins with San Francisco, because we've seen that multiple years. You know, it didn't happen last year, but it is possible that that happens. They went over this last year. They went, I think they were 9. They won 9+ games. Yeah, I think they got 9. They were 9 and whatever. Anyways, they won 9 games last year. They've gone over their total in 4 of the last 5 seasons. Obviously, this year, their win total is higher. Than everyone thought they were taking a step back last year. I think they had like a 6.5 or a 7 win total last year. Geno came in, surprised everyone. I mean, to the point where the 12th man were booing Russell Wilson, which I never thought that I would see in my life. But I look at this last half of the season and it scares me. They were 1-7 against the spread in the last 8 games last year. I agree with you that they got stronger. I'm interested to hear what you think about Bobby Wagner. He's back now in Seattle after that year with the Rams, which it's just a blimp. We might as well pretend like that didn't happen. Do you think that he's got a lot of juice left in the tank? Do you think that Bobby Wagner is going to be as effective as he was, a few years ago with Seattle?
I'm all about semantics. And if people were listening closely, they realize I brought up Bush for a reason, right? Because it's a subtle way to say what we saw last year from Wagner shows you that he's on his last legs as a professional football player. So you have to get younger, a little bit more athletic there, which is why Bush is there. So I think we'll start to see a little bit more Bush coming in and pairing up with Jordan Brooks, who was injured last year. I think that's going to be key. But to your question, Wagner's a little bit in, I don't want to say decline, because we're talking about someone that's in his 30s. You know what I'm saying? But
he's like, what, 33?
He's not the same as he was when he left Seattle the first time. So there's a bit of a drop off there. But Devin Bush is coming in and is ready to go. And I think that's someone that's going to be exactly what they wanted, at the position of pair with Jordan Brooks. So for me, yes, Wagner. Hopefully he can regain something, but we saw a little bit last year that it wasn't the same Bobby Wagner that we knew and loved early in the Legion of Boom era.